Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are mapping out something absolutely massive. We're going to dig right into the rapidly accelerating, heavily government-driven AI ecosystem over in China, and we're going to compare it directly to the strategy we're seeing play out in the United States. We are literally witnessing one of the most significant technological shifts in human history right now, so let's just jump right into the data. Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand this global tech race, we're going to look at 5 core pillars: the US-China AI race, funding the AI ecosystem, the humanoid robot revolution, AI in the classroom, and lastly, regulating the AI future.
All right, starting us off, Section 1, the US-China AI race, defining the global leaders. Experts are pretty much in unanimous agreement right now that when it comes to artificial intelligence leadership, we are looking at a decisively bipolar world. In fact, our source material features analysts flat out stating it really is a two-horse race. When you look at the landscape of major breakthroughs, it overwhelmingly comes down to either China or the US, and that really sets up the side-by-side comparative theme we're exploring today.
Now, what's really interesting here is how human capital factors into the equation. Just think about this. China has a staggering 9.4 million software developers, which is heavily supported by their massive STEM education base. The US? Well, the US has about 1.5 million. And why does this matter so much? Because AI is essentially a force multiplier. It literally turns everyday programmers into super programmers. So when you augment a massive labor pool of nearly 10 million people with AI, you give China a highly unique structural competitive advantage in building out an AI-powered economy.
Moving right along to Section 2, funding the AI ecosystem, focusing on capital and hardware workarounds.
Ultimately, how a country funds its emerging tech completely dictates how fast it can move. Take a look at this number, $8.44 billion. That's not just private money. That represents the Chinese central government's direct investment specifically aimed at bootstrapping AI startups. It's a massive, heavy injection of state capital designed to rapidly build up an application-oriented system.
And this brings us to a really critical contrast between the two models. In the US, nascent tech ecosystems rely heavily on private venture capital. Now, VCs can be pretty risk-averse. They act kind of like investment bankers, who are looking for a relatively safe, guaranteed return over a few years. But in an emerging Wild West market like AI, nobody really knows exactly which startup is going to win. The Chinese model, on the other hand, uses aggressive government subsidies to just absorb that risk. By doing that, they foster a fiercely competitive startup ecosystem that is forced to move much faster, simply because it isn't constrained by cautious private backers.
But hey, funding is only half the battle, right? You still got to have the hardware. And faced with US restrictions on high-end semiconductors, China's indigenous manufacturing was basically forced to innovate. Take Huawei, for example. They came up with these brilliant engineering workarounds. They essentially used optical connections to link 384 less powerful chips together to create what they call the Cloud Matrix 384. And the result? This unit actually outperformed comparable restricted US hardware. It's just a fascinating look at how export bans can actually backfire and unexpectedly supercharge domestic innovation.
Let's shift gears a bit. Section 3, the humanoid robot revolution, bringing AI into the physical world.
This is all about embodied AI. It's taking the intelligence out of your computer screen and putting it out there into the physical world. Market trends currently expect China's humanoid robot sales to exceed 10,000 units in 2025 alone. That is a massive 125% year-over-year increase. They are essentially building bodies for AI brains at an absolutely astonishing rate.
And get this, they aren't just going to be isolated away in some dark, automated factories. The end goal here is to integrate them directly into our daily lives. We are talking about highly intelligent humanoid robots acting as caretakers for senior citizens. We're talking about robot chefs capable of cooking and washing dishes, and units literally aiding police officers on the street. Beijing has even opened up the world's first 4S robot shopping mall. They're starting to treat consumer robots with the exact same retail infrastructure that we currently use for buying cars.
But the real kicker here is affordability. The Unitary humanoid robot is currently priced around $10,000. That's a fraction of what you'd pay for a new car. By applying the exact same massive manufacturing scale that they used to completely dominate the electric vehicle industry, analysts predict these robots are going to become incredibly cheap domestically and then, for sure, become a massive global export.
So, how do you prepare a society for all of this? Section 4, AI in the classroom, creating a pro-AI consumer base.
And this brilliantly illustrates their strategy of early adoption. In Beijing, municipal platforms are already delivering AI-focused lessons to over 150,000 students across hundreds of schools. They've got kids as early as 7 years old actively learning how to harness AI as a daily tool.
Naturally, this is also totally changing the role of the educator. The prevailing view over there is that AI will supplement, not replace, teachers. Just imagine the sheer efficiency unlocked when an AI system can analyze a student's individual data in real time and then instantly customize the teaching speed and style to exactly what that specific child needs. It's a massive wave of educational efficiency, totally designed to yield significantly better learning outcomes over the next decade.
Finally, we land on Section 5, regulating the AI future, looking at guardrails and open source.
Let's move to and see how this builds a necessary framework. Because moving this fast absolutely requires new societal rules to prevent the kind of chaos we saw in the early internet days. You know, like when Napster completely upended the music industry? Well, China recently implemented strict new labeling rules for AI content, establishing a very structured regulatory environment that really contrasts with the still developing international standards. It's basically a strict 3-level review system. First, the platform detects clear signs of AI. Second, if it's confirmed, the content must be explicitly labeled AI-generated. And third, if an algorithm is just guessing, it has to be marked as suspected AI. It's a very aggressive, proactive attempt to set a global benchmark for safety.
We're also seeing a deep philosophical contrast playing out on a global scale. Some experts, like AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton, are genuinely worried that unregulated, closed corporate models are simply going to concentrate power in the hands of a few tech giants. But on the flip side, we see China heavily pushing open-source models, like DeepSeek, for instance, with the goal of making AI a globally accessible utility. And this is a huge deal because it forces even the closed companies in the West to reconsider their strategies. It aims to democratize the technology so that literally anyone, anywhere, can build applications on top of it.
So what does this all mean? It leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question to ponder. Will the future of AI, driven by these two vastly different strategies, become a democratized superpower for everyone by 2027? Or will it ultimately exacerbate global inequality? Tracking how both the US and China navigate their unique, incredibly high-stakes paths is the only way we're going to get that answer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.